Welcome to the TOEFL Listening section. In this part, you will hear one or more conversations in an academic or campus context, such as a discussion between a student and a professor or between two students. You may take notes while listening. Listen to part of a conversation. You will hear it only once, so listen carefully. After the conversation, you will answer questions about what you heard. Some questions will ask you about main ideas and details. Others will ask about implied meaning, speaker attitude, or how ideas relate to one another. Use both what is stated and what is implied to answer.
Good afternoon, Professor Murphy. Thank you for meeting with me during office hours.
Good afternoon, Daniel. Please tell me what you want to discuss about typography in digital media.
I am preparing my project on font selection for screen readability and impact, and I want advice on choosing typefaces for a responsive news site.
That is a rich topic. You need to balance legibility, readability, performance, and brand tone.
Can you help me break those down? For example, what is the difference between legibility and readability on screen?
Legibility refers to how easily a single letter or word can be recognized. Readability refers to how comfortably a paragraph or page can be read over time.
So for body text, I should focus on readability, and for headings on legibility and impact.
Exactly. For body text, you want consistent letter forms, generous X height, moderate stroke contrast, and optimal line length and line height.
You mentioned X height. Could you explain why that matters on screens?
A larger X height increases the apparent size of lowercase letters at small sizes, which helps recognition on low-resolution displays and at small viewport widths.
What about serif versus sans serif for article text on a website?
Historically, serif faces were used for print body text, but on screens, a humanist or neo-grotesque sans can improve readability at small sizes because of cleaner shapes and more even color on the page.
Are there exceptions where serif works better on screen?
Yes. Some modern serifs are designed for screens with open counters and sturdy serifs, and they can convey formality or tradition for long-form articles when rendered at sufficient size and with good hinting.
You used the word hinting earlier. Could you explain that in plain terms?
Hinting is a set of instructions in a font that adjusts glyph shapes to align with pixel grids at small sizes. This helps maintain stroke consistency and prevents letters from appearing too thin or broken on low-resolution displays.
I will look for fonts with good hinting. Is there a way to test that quickly?
Test on multiple devices and at multiple sizes. Compare rendering on a standard laptop, an older low-resolution screen, and a modern high DPI phone. Look for clear counters, consistent stroke weight, and no fuzzy edges.
What role do font formats and loading strategies play in a site redesign?
Font formats like WOFF2, WOFF, and TTF affect load time and compatibility. Subsetting can reduce file size. Variable fonts let you combine many weights and widths into a single file, which can improve performance, but you must manage fallback behavior to avoid layout shifts.
What do you mean by layout shifts?
Layout shift happens when text changes size or font after the page has loaded. This can be distracting and hurts perceived performance. Use font loading strategies like font display swap or optional with local fallbacks to reduce cumulative layout shift.
How do variable fonts change things for responsive typography?
Variable fonts allow you to interpolate weight width and optical size with CSS, so you can adapt type to viewport size and user preferences without multiple files. For example, you can use a lighter weight for large headlines and a slightly heavier weight for small captions while keeping the same type family.
You mentioned optical size. Tell me more about that and why it matters.
Optical size is an axis in some variable fonts that adapts glyph proportions for different sizes. A display optical size will have tighter spacing and more delicate details, while a text optical size will be more open and robust for small sizes.
How should I decide on line length and line height for my article templates?
Aim for comfortable measures, around 60 to 75 characters per line for desktop and shorter lines for mobile increase. Line height for narrow columns to improve vertical rhythm and reduce eye strain.
What about tracking and kerning adjustments for UI elements like buttons and labels?
Tight tracking on uppercase buttons can improve perceived compactness, but do not over-tighten. It can reduce legibility. At small sizes, add a bit of letter spacing and adjust kerning for specific pairs so text stays clear.
Accessibility is important. How does typography affect accessibility on the web?
Typography affects readability for users with visual impairments. Low contrast between text and background can make content unreadable. Follow contrast guidelines, use relative units for font sizes, and allow user scaling. Avoid fixed line heights that cut off text and test with screen readers and zoom.
Can you give me a concrete example of a redesign that improved readability using typographic changes?
At my last lab, we redesigned a university news site. We switched body text from a small serif to a humanist sans with larger X height. We increased base font size by 2 pixels and raised line height by 10%. The result was higher time on page and better comprehension in A/B testing.
Did you change headings and display type as well?
Yes. We used a condensed display face for large headers to create impact and kept the humanist sans for navigation and body text, so contrast in tone was clear without harming readability.
What about branding and emotional impact? How do you pick a typeface that matches a brand but still reads well?
Start with voice and context. Then test candidate faces in real content and at multiple sizes. Consider pairing a display type that carries brand personality with a neutral text face for reading. If brand requires a unique custom face, then design optical sizes and hinting work into the budget.
Are system fonts sometimes a good choice?
System fonts reduce load time and have native rendering on each platform. They can be excellent for interfaces where performance and familiarity matter. Use them when brand permits and supplement with a display face for marketing materials.
How should I document typographic choices for my project?
Create a style guide with specific font families, fallbacks, sizes, line heights, letter spacing, and usage rules. Include performance notes, font formats, and accessibility checks, and show code snippets for responsive rules.
Any final tips for my presentation on font selection for screen readability and impact?
Show side-by-side renderings on different devices. Explain the trade-offs between aesthetics and function, and provide test results or user feedback. If possible, include a small hands-on example so reviewers can compare reading speed and preference.
Thank you, Professor Murphy. This is very helpful. I will incorporate testing on multiple devices and mention variable fonts and optical sizing in my slides.
You are welcome, Daniel. Good luck with the project and send me your draft before the deadline.
I will do that. Thanks again.
Listen again to part of the conversation. Then answer the question.
If a font does not render well at small sizes, use a higher X height and a larger font size, and consider a variable font for weight adjustments without extra load.
This concludes the conversation portion. For more TOEFL practice tests and study materials, visit Spinta.org.